Hey, this is Zach from We're Not Marketers, and today's episode is brought to you by Product Marketing Alliance, your go-to community for leveling up your product marketing career. PMA's Product Marketing Summits offer an incredible chance to connect with fellow PMMs, hear from industry leaders at companies like Google, Uber, and TikTok, and take your career to the next level. Want to see when a summit is coming to a city near you? Head on over to world.productmarketingalliance.com and don't forget to use the code NOTMARKETERS15. I repeat, NOTMARKETERS15 for 15% off your next ticket. Follow them on LinkedIn at Product Marketing Alliance.
We are a podcast for product marketers and B2B SaaS who feel misunderstood in what they do.
From someone who truly gets what you do and
basically help you feel less like a misfit, being unignorable in your role. Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Marketers. My name is Gab, the sales deck intern. I'll introduce my two other co-hosts, and then we have a very special guest for you on season 3. So I'll pass it over to Eric.
We do have a very special guest today, but I'm Eric Holland, the resident Franken manager for season 3, and toss it down to our other co-host, Zach.
Hey, this is Zach Roberts on the line, the sales water boy. Gab, I'm going to pass it back to you to introduce our illustrious next guest.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So with us today, we have Jess Petrella. Jess is the senior PMM at ZayZoon. She also worked at Outbounds as a director of PMM. And she also liked to provide us with incredible resources on how to leverage AI as PMMs. So Jess, wonderful to have you.
Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. I feel like I need to call out all three of you join this conversation talking about the launches that you're in the throes of. So we got a little bit of chatting there, but yeah, true product marketing fashion. We're already out the gate chatting launches.
And isn't it
just before we got started,
how you can just immediately bond over something like that, but no one else in marketing really gets it quite like us? Interesting.
They get it.
I see where you're going.
they talk about campaigns and leads, so that's their equivalent.
No, and that was not a planted segue for our most important question that we like to ask our guests. And in true fashion, we like to let Gab do the honors and ask it. So go ahead, Gab.
Thank you. Do you know how funny it would be if I would very much love if you two can cut me off at one point and say it instead of me? But me expecting to say it, I think it would be a very funny joke.
I know what the question is.
Oh, you do?
I'll ask it, but
someone's been doing their market research on the show then.
Exactly. Jess, are product marketers actually marketers? Why or why not?
Yeah. Oh, you're holding your face. Why are you stressed about what I'm going to say?
I get stressed every time I wait for an answer. And you may have just added a little bit extra. I'm really interested.
Here's the thing, folks. I don't want to completely debunk the premise of your entire series here, but I do think there is a world where within the right parameters in the right organization, product marketers can be marketers. And there's a reason for that. But again, it varies. This is coming from a person who considers herself to be a product person, always have been, always will be. It's why I do the profession of product marketing. But I also want to point out we all come from very different backgrounds. We are asked to do very different things within the realm of our organizations. I've watched the progression of our profession over time, and I've seen us go from, hey, product marketers are storytellers. We need to care about narrative. We need to own narrative. And that evolves to product marketing as our positioners. We need to know how to do positioning, to do it right, do it in this way. Very few product marketers get to hold that sort of baton of evolving positioning. So what does that leave them, right? Over time, it evolves. Product marketers need to be strategists, strategic enablers. So I've seen it go through this evolution year after year. I always think about that solo product marketer who's working in a product or in a marketing team, and how are they thinking and feeling about how we are putting these like wild, you got to be this, you got to do that, when really they're doing the day-to-day work next to their marketing counterparts. So that's the way I look at it. But again, it varies, and I think that varies in the like parameters of what your organization expects.
Another loss on our books, guys.
What's the tally?
I don't know for this season, but I think we're at a pretty consistent 80% are on your side of the fence, 20% decide to join us and be rebels. So,
Jess, if you want to hear
it's
my
not
answer,
looking good.
I personally lost count.
Sure. And like
Who's counting?
to be fair, yeah, not to debunk the premise, I actually really value it because, like I said, I'm a product person and I get where you're coming from. If you asked me if I'm a marketer, I'm not. And that's something that's always been a bit of a sticking point for me if I'm perceived as a marketer in an organization or from like peers and things like that. So I do get like a little, no, that's not what I am. It's not what I do. But I think that comes with the territory. I'm very much in the mindset of making our profession inclusive. And that is a pretty significant leap from, I think, some of the pressures that are already put on product marketers.
What makes a product person, and how does that POV like influence how you see product marketing today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I'm assuming this is everyone's from a different walk of life here. For me, it's just that this is what I was always asked to do in the earlier stages of my career was to work part and parcel with product management. It's how I developed as a product marketer, having that insight into what we were doing, what we were thinking. We talk a lot about like product marketers should influence product roadmap. That's never been my experience. My experience has always been product marketing co-creates and co-owns product roadmap, right? So that's how I developed in my earlier days. And those, I was lucky to do that because I think it's very much like eye of the storm for the product marketer. Like you are living, breathing product all day, every day. And I think that creates a really special kind of product marketing team. But then as I've developed in my career, I actually seek out those opportunities now, right? Because that's who I am as a product marketer. I couldn't imagine doing this profession any other way. And the point of view is it is a product point of view, period, right? It's you're thinking through the lens of your product value from the inside, not as someone who's being handed something to put in a box and put on a shelf. So if you are then the person who painted the shoes of Pinocchio and put the hat on him, there's a very different connection and correlation between what you think and feel about your product. So I find that helps, but then proximity is gold. So working in close proximity with product experience and product development is just, it's gold for the product marketer. So that's a big part of it as well.
I can totally agree. I'm at Clue right now. It's the closest I've ever been to the product team, and I'm like, whoa, this is a whole different style. And my question for you then, so like you seek out opportunities, right, where that seems to be a good fit. As you're building out functions and building teams, are you searching for like-minded folks who are very much the same way, or are you maybe looking for the other end where they're maybe not identifying as a quote-unquote product person? And particularly, why are you picking that direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like in interviewing product marketers, it's rare to find like I am a product person. That's who I am as a product marketer because those experiences don't exist so frequently. That has a lot to do with how the business understands product marketing, where they place them, how they think of the function. But yeah, to your point, like what I look for is like understanding and excitement of what it means to work in product. You won't believe like how people sit up straight and go wide-eyed when they think of the prospect of being in the eye of the storm, right? Like, there really is something to that, and I that's what I look for is like the recognition of why that's important is so important when building a team that's going to live within product. You don't necessarily need to have the tangible experience of being like that close a counterpart to PM, but it's so important that you understand why that's going to be impactful. So it is a little different. It's a different sell within an organization as well. So you need the right people to really understand and have some conviction of like why product marketing lives where they live within the company. So that's super important.
Great. That's super helpful. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, I want to find more product focused product marketers because I think, like you said, the opportunity isn't enough for people to get it. Zach.
Jess, I'm gonna take you back to season 2. We had Becky Trevino. She's a CPO at Flexera, and she said PMM should be nowhere damn near the roadmap. You're telling us PMMs can co-create the roadmap. For the PMMs out there that want to have that level of clout that you do, like what are the skills that you had to prioritize to build that influence to say that to say, hey, I'm a PMM that's co-creating the roadmap with product.
Now, yeah, you're putting me in a place here, Becky. Just if you're listening, like I respect all perspectives on the matter. And like I said, it's how we develop as product marketers that make us have these like strong held opinions about what the role is. And that's exactly what you guys are unpacking here, which is beautiful because we need to be having these discussions. So without really knowing like where Becky would be coming from in that perspective, like for me, this skill set it's like very front loaded. It has a lot to do with researching, connecting dots. Like when I have our charter of what product marketing is within an organization, I consider us to be a vantage point for the organization. So we're connecting customer, market, and competitor research and insights. Those dots need to connect somewhere, right? You can't have those disparate within an organization. So what we do is we front load that investment when we're looking at, let's say, product expansion, something we're looking at ZayZoon right now, the company that I work with. When we are looking at that, front loading that investment is that you're putting the insight, the research, the perspective in the hands of the PMs before they're making decisions. And that's what I mean by co-creating, right? There's a difference between we are linear throughout the entire process and locks, that's idealistic and it's not how it goes down in reality. But what happens is that we can bring perspective, we can pull together threads, whether that's you're a trends person, whether you're like directly wanting to beat out competition, that can really easily get lost when product marketing is out of the equation. But then again, it depends on the breadth of skill of the PM team as well and how far they take their research, how far they take their accountability around decision making, right? So it's a mix. Like I said, it's the organization that forms this, and not all organizations require that. Some don't. I come from the startup and scale up space, and I find that sort of collaborative process in close proximity has just been gold, right? It's been a really great place to live as a product marketer, as a product manager, to just have that like always turning mindset and vantage point.
Now I need to know, how do you do that if it's not already part? I think you said if it's part of the form of the company. Is there a world where you can help form that if it's not already there? And if the answer is yes,
Yeah.
help us out and everyone who's going to be listening in on how you can actually become that influence, become that vantage point.
It's harder if it's not already part of the DNA of what product is. It's much more difficult if that's not what the business is demanding of product marketing. Changing and shifting what the business demands of product marketing is very difficult, especially if you're a solo PMM, especially if you're a small product marketing team or you don't have, let's say, like executive sponsorship as a product marketing department. So that is really difficult, right? Let's level set on that. But as product marketers, whether you're solo, whether you're a small team, whether you're a growing team, or even a product marketing leader, I know this is going to sound very cliche and you're like, I do this, I do it all the time, but you have to show that incremental value. And the way you do that is you have to get ahead of the roadmap. You have to get ahead of the opportunity selection. And that could be, same vein, just opportunity analysis. So we're doing a lot of opportunity analysis when we run launches, but that's often after the fact, right? We now have a product that needs to go into the world. And so we're assessing out audiences, we're assessing out how to reach them, where they live, how to talk to them. We may find like kernels of opportunity around a certain segment or a certain vertical. We're doing opportunity analysis, but in my opinion, it's usually too late because we're often working backwards and there's really no guarantee that it's going to survive. But if you do your opportunity analysis before you choose the feature set, before you choose the product, you have a stronger sense of survival on your launch, right? So it's just like flipping that. And sometimes you just have to show that. And if you can't get far enough ahead from the roadmap, then start at the beginning point. Okay, we're evaluating what this thing needs to be. We're going through user flows, we're going through great. That's a good time to get involved and say, hey, did we do a lean canvas? If not, can we evolve that and pause here or do that alongside the work that's rushing forward? It's really just that's one piece. We do opportunity analysis as product marketers, just flip it and try and get in earlier. And that's a great way to show like how that proximity can be a game changer, right? You're going to run a stronger launch if you already evaluated the opportunity from the start, right?
Just a follow-up question. You mentioned earlier that like when you are evaluating organizations, like this is what you're looking for. What are the questions that an aspiring PMM or PMM that's interviewing that they should be asking in the process to find an organization like you're working in? Because the reality being is that some organizations are not proactive. If you're at a startup, you're at a scale up, Jess, you are running after the PM. The PM is not running alongside of you. So I'm curious to hear more of your take on that.
Yeah, again, it's like I've found this in my own experience. It is few and far in between. I don't think it's the easiest task to interview at businesses, and you're going to ask questions about where product marketing sits and how they work with product. And it's going to be pretty standard 9 times out of 10. What I would say is to look for the right product marketing leader. So if you're a more intermediate or junior product marketer, look for a product marketing leader who's willing to advocate for product marketing's involvement in product development. So advocacy is a really big important piece here. Even for me in my role, like I could be brought into an organization, I can develop processes with the product team, but you could also lose that because things go fast really quickly. So advocacy is critical. Finding a leader that's willing to advocate, has the mindset that's aligned with yours. So in the sphere of product, how do you see product marketing working with product management? If it feels, and I'm going to use the T word here, traditional, and that's not to say like everything else is old and archaic and this is the new way. It's just the way my mind works when it comes to this. But if you see that some of the thinking's a bit more traditional, that product marketing sits over here and we get the roadmap every quarter, every year, and we respond to it in X, Y, and Z way. That's not going to be an area if you don't have the right leader or the right advocacy for you to develop in this way. Unless you're like, you feel confident that you can go into an org and start to show new ways of processes. That's also fair. Like I said, front loading some of the opportunity analysis, great way to do that. So yeah, like looking at a business and saying, is this the right business for me, is really difficult for you to place yourself as a product marketer in there. But looking for the right product marketing leader who's willing to advocate and has that thinking mindset around how product marketing and product should work together could go a long way.
I would like to switch gear a little bit because there's a question I had on the back of my mind, and it's, first of all, a lot of the stuff you've been sharing on LinkedIn is super valuable. I feel like value is a good keyword here. I'm seeing practical positioning. I think it was hyper clear the way you're going in depth and showcasing those framework, AI for PMMs as well. But we know that AI is super helpful for PMMs. You were able to put it in a way that is very digestible and very, again, valuable. If I'm a PMM listening, I'm a skimmer, I have 100 things to do on my to-do list, and I'm seeing your list of like 21 use cases of AI for product marketing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the top 3 you would recommend to a listener that, hey, this is a game changer, not only to make your work faster, but leveraging AI in a way that can serve you well?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Like I started sharing AI tools for product marketers because I was figuring it out too. So it was like early last year, there was this, we don't need to go into it, but a whole wave of new technology that we could adopt. And I wanted to really understand it. So I started building things that I would be using. So I'm like, cool, this is valuable, this is not. I could just be super discerning, and then I built something and shared it. But over time, like obviously things have advanced. What I would say is this is what I use AI for today. And I think this is the most valuable way because, like you said, I've run through the use cases. Some are okay, some I'll never use in my day to day. But for me, I'm constantly synthesizing things for my organization. Whether it's a competitor ran a webinar and I want to attend it and share insights with the org. Like I shared a post recently, went to a industry event, wanted to synthesize what we learned there for the organization. So that sort of thing is instantaneous. You can take a webinar, take the transcript, and ask AI really specifically to summarize. And then you, as a product marketer, can be discerning and pick out what you think is most valuable to the organization. That is like strictly a time saver. I'm not smarter doing that. I'm not like giving better insights to the organization. That's not where we are at with AI. I'm strictly like saving time, right? So I can churn out more value for my organization just by not having to take every single note during a competitor webinar, for example. So it's stuff like that. Like I don't find that AI is like making me a better product marketer just yet. I find that AI is helping me do things fast, and therefore I'm able to deliver more, which is really important to me as a product marketer working in a like scale up startup world. Delivering more is going to be really important. We're not a large team. I'm in a team of 3 product marketers. We just started up in this organization, the very first foundational team for the organization. And so we really require high volume, high value, and AI just helps us get there with it.
I love it. Just follow-up question on that. I'm just wondering if I'm 100% agreeing with you. We need to ship more, especially leaner team. We need to ship a lot, fail a lot, just being in that motion. But where do you find the balance between, oh, I don't want to be a PMM that will just say yes to everything that, for example, management is putting on our side or our scope, but I also want to make sure that I can leverage AI and working on the right stuff that makes the needle move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting that AI is part of that equation in the sense that you may be able to say yes to a few more things in a quarter that are a bit more like maybe more mundane. So like high level things like some SWOT analysis can be done really effectively and very quickly. Whereas you otherwise may have said no to that because you're like, oh, do I really want to spend X hours? Do I really have that in my like bandwidth this month? So there are things you can say yes to a couple more things here and there. So AI helps you do that. But I think your broader question is like, how do you say, as a small team with the resourcing that we have, right? Like I hired 2 product marketers at the beginning of last quarter. We are still ramping up as a team. We presented ourselves to the organization. This is product marketing, this is what we do. And that opened the floodgates, right? So I had to very quickly understand how are we going to manage through a lot of requests and a lot of changes in demand on product marketing. A lot of it is advocacy. Here's what we do and don't do. There's a lot of those conversations very early on for a new product marketing team. Where can we defer this work? Is there another team in the organization that's better suited or better resourced to be able to do it? Like my thing is we don't leave requests unresponded to. So that's really important. But then also there's like another level of advocacy that I think is really critical. Again, speaking from the world of building a team, it's new to the org, that have to be really clear on what are our big focuses for the quarter. We really socialize the heck out of that. And that is where we are non-negotiable, right? But there's a lot of interesting things that come with that. You're probably thinking also what happens when like the executive team puts like a launch on you and like this and that. Like that is like it's all of like the decision making there has a lot to do with like how you prioritize impact. And I always have to be a little bit like I want to respond to business demand. I want to preserve the resourcing of my team, but I also we're a new team and we want to show up and show out. So there's always that pulling force there. And then yeah, just to like square off the point, like AI does like there are like a couple extra things we can take on in a quarter just through being able to do something a bit quicker.
Earlier, you mentioned it 2 times. I was keeping count. Op analysis. And I'm curious, like, for some of us who are hearing this for the first time, what are the steps that you are taking in an op analysis? Like, curious, what are the questions? What are the things that you are looking out for to help you better inform that feature prioritization and validation? And a follow up question, I'm tagging along to what Gab mentioned in the area of AI, is that curious, like, how has AI changed how you approach that opportunity analysis today?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the last question and go backwards. So AI, like really tangibly, how I've used it is often with like opportunity analysis, we're working with available data. So I want to make that clear. Like we're not doing $35,000 market research to see if we should include a feature or not in a product line. Right. So we're usually working with available data. And my thing is to always make that data stretch. So that's like existing market reports. That is what we can suss out of our existing client base based on a specific segment. Like your client base, your customer base is your market. So depending on what you're asking them, you can get a non-biased response. So I'm always trying to get available data and stretch it as far as I can and make it work in the sense of like developing an opportunity. The opportunity is always ends in a numeric value or a volume, right? So a volume of clients or conversions or a revenue goal, right? So this is where we could go if we first 100 clients in 6 months, that's the opportunity, or long term attached to a more tangible goal within the for the organization or the corporate goals. Where AI helps me stretch that data is like really tangibly. And so this is what I have. Can you run it some hypothetical analysis on if this is my like LTV or if this is my ACV and I have a first X amount of clients, like what percentage of this audience would I need to acquire? It's very, I can stretch the data and it's hypothetical, but that's usually fine for opportunity analysis. You don't want to, you're not going to, like, unless you're being asked to like define an entire new product line that's going to save the company in the next 5 years, like you don't want to spend thousands of dollars and like 10 hours on your opportunity analysis. Yeah. I combined your two questions there, but I think that kind of covers it.
No, like that's why you are efficient. I'm just so like really recapping what you're saying here. You're taking the available information, you're throwing it into either Gemini, GPT, and you're just saying, hey, it sounds like an if then statement, and you're like giving this projection. And
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing because like speaking for myself, I'm not going to build charts as a product marketer. I don't like that is not something I like to spend time on, but AI will do that for me. So now I have a projection, I have an ROI statement, and I also have a visual that I compare with that. Now I have an opportunity analysis on a single slide, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. That's like I'm more efficient, but also if you're listening for you guys, we all could be doing that. And that's why I've developed, now I'm going to go on a bit of a mission statement here, but PMM Ops, it started as like, where are the gaps and resources that product marketers need? What can I be excited about creating? That took off, right? Like I saw thousands and thousands of traffic through my resources, downloads of courses. I'm like, okay, great. But then what's the next sort of like frontier for product marketing? And we're talking about it right here. And last year it felt like this new thing. And this year it's no, guys, like this is practical. This is how I use AI actually in my day to day. And that gets me really excited because like I see people's face light up, but I'm also like, I look at the output and I'm thinking, I've done that manually. Like I've done that several times manually. I know what that takes to do that. And I just did that this morning in a quick analysis. So there's a big sort of moment there where you're like, oh, okay, this is what it's actually going to be for me. And I really want product marketers to find that moment as well.
When I found that
I
moment,
love it.
it was this week when I had to rewrite some testimonials that came in. And I was like, yeah, those aren't worded very well. Let's shoot through ChatGPT and get those rewrote. And I was like, ooh, yeah, there's about 100 other things that I should be using this for. So I will be
Nice.
downloading
Yeah.
your resources after this call, Jess.
Go for it.
PMMops.com.
PMMops.com.
Jess, where can people find you? You talked about PMMops.com. Is there anything else that our listeners can go to learn more about you?
Yeah, I'm like a LinkedIn diehard. I think it's just like such a great place if you're building content for professionals. So I'm all over LinkedIn. I love to reach out with people there. So yeah, let's connect there. PMMops.com, recently updated it. It's just like my heart is on that page. What I love and care about when it comes to product marketing really very much shows up there. So have a look-see at that.
Awesome. Thank you for joining a few misfits on this. It's a hump day today. So on this wonderful Wednesday, I'm super excited to take a look at some of your resources. And I know a lot of our listeners are going to be on your page here soon. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And that's another episode of We're Not Marketers. See you next time, everybody.
Thank you very much.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to We're Not Marketers. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, review our podcast, and share this episode with other PMMs. Thanks again, and see you soon.